Channel. No place on Earth has better weather.
Time once again to update you on what's happening in the tropics, and we'll begin with a look at what's happening on the big picture for you. We got the big blue marble here, and a pretty impressive looking tropical wave. We've been monitoring that the past couple of days, but it's headed into that zone where it is not favorable for these systems to develop. It's back, strong southwesterly winds, and you can even see it on this picture from way out in space on how this wave's having a hard time interacting with that. What happened to old Erica? Well, it's way over here. That's it. All right, there off the edge of the globe, and that's way out over the North Atlantic, not affecting anyone. And as we get you in closer to home here, well, we still see some southwesterly flow here. While out in the Pacific, we see a rapidly developing tropical storm, and we'll tell you more about that once we shift over to the other side. But on this side, you see that wave approaching, and you can see it encountering southwesterly winds. And here you can see a nice little curl right here, winds wrapping around low pressure in the upper atmosphere over the Gulf of Mexico. And with the southwesterly flow, some disturbed weather coming up from the Yucatan across the western Caribbean and into the Bahamas. And some of that's coming up through the Florida Straits too. But on the water vapor, seeing like an elongated trough right in through here. So conditions not favorable for development. And here's the other trough that's sitting right out here interacting with this wave. But as the wave moves west, it continues to plow into these strong southwesterly winds. And you can see the top of it just kind of getting torn apart here. Down the south, the southern part of the wave has been hanging on a little bit better, but still, conditions here not favorable for any type of development in the near future. Let's get you off to the western Caribbean, and boy, it's pretty noisy here. Looking at the satellite picture, of course, this is an infrared shot. We show you the colder cloud tops. Colder the cloud top, well, you start to see the yellows and the oranges. So it's blue, then yellow, then the orange, and then eventually red. So that tells you colder cloud tops. So sometimes that can be an indication where you find some heavier showers and some thunderstorms. And I was checking out the Caymans. There were some thunder showers here earlier this morning, and over the past couple of days, we've seen about 2/3 of an inch of rain. So there's some scattered showers and thunderstorms, and some of that coming up towards South Florida. But again, strong southwest winds aloft, and conditions not favorable for anything to develop in the immediate future. Going to the Pacific, Marty, never was much of anything. It's lost down here. Here's Linda. It's now down to a depression. And here's the new storm. And this one is Nora, and the latest advisory from the Hurricane Center. 14.2 north, 102.5 west. Winds now 65 miles an hour. Nearly stationary, but it is forecast to start moving off towards the northwest here. So along the coast, from Punta Maldonado to Lazaro Cardenas, we do have tropical storm warnings. And from Lazaro Cardenas up to Cabo Corrientes, we have hurricane watches. And by this time tomorrow, we'll probably have Hurricane Nora. All interests on the western coast of Mexico want to keep close tabs with this developing storm. It's a tropical storm. It'll probably become a hurricane sometime tonight or tomorrow, and then start moving off towards the northwest. And it's going to be a close call for the west coast of Mexico. So we'll keep you updated on that. Now we get you up to Linda, down to a depression, TD, tropical depression Linda. Winds 35, movement west. High level moisture continues to stream up towards Southern California. There's San Diego. There's Los Angeles. A few sprinkles in LA this morning around old La Cienega. But as we get you to the west of Hawaii, an upper low here, and continuing west, here's David, and this will be threatening Chichijima with some higher winds. The observers at Chichijima are not reporting the past 12 to 24 hours, unfortunately, so we don't have any data. But this is packing winds about 90 miles an hour. It is forecasted to take an abrupt right-hand turn. Will be threatening the east coast of Japan, probably Thursday night, Friday at the latest. And Oliva has moved away, but there were 7 fatalities from flooding and mudslides in Japan from that one. Kristen?
It remains wet in the Pacific Northwest.
Weather Channel. No place on Earth has better weather.
Well, the most remarkable aspect of the hurricane season to date is certainly the lack of tropical activity, hurricane activity in the Atlantic Ocean. Since the last part of July, we've had just one storm out there. That was in September, Erica. We didn't have any in August, and nothing else in September. Not any tropical depression or tropical storm at all. Nor do we have anything today that looks like an immediate threat. We have a little bit of concentration of clouds here in southwest Bermuda. We'll talk more about that in a minute. No sign of any organization there. Notice that we have this trough of low pressure off the east coast extending down into a closed low actually in the Gulf of Mexico. These are winds at upper levels. We do have a good anticyclone over there. It's just south of Mexico, and we do indeed have a tropical storm there. That's Nora. We'll detail that in a few minutes. And then out in the Atlantic, what we're seeing here are mostly westerly winds at upper levels. Now, we do have a very persistent disturbed area here. That's about halfway between Africa and the Lesser Antilles, and it is persistent in spite of those winds, which we wouldn't think would be very favorable unless we can get something different than that in the next day or two. I don't think that has much of a chance there to develop. As far as the Gulf of Mexico and the area off the east coast, well, we have some clusters of showers in the northwest Caribbean and the extreme southeast Gulf, but remember we have that upper low there. That's not favorable for any development there. And then off toward Bermuda, lots of big concentration of showers, but those are not getting any better organized. Here you can see a little farther down in the Caribbean, certainly nothing happening there that we need to be concerned about in the least. Now, we'll take a look at that area we talked about, the one that's halfway between Africa and the Lesser Antilles. We have a very large area of showers. Some of these are very heavy and moving off toward the west. But again, we have so much wind there, so many upper winds from the west that we think this is not favorable for development. But we are kind of impressed with the fact that it would hang together as well as it has. You can see that same feature again on this picture as it departs to the west. Also, we have one little low pressure system that moved off Africa yesterday. We can still follow that, but on up ahead of that, it too would seem to be about to encounter some westerly winds, which would not be favorable at all for any further development. But in this year where we haven't had anything in the Atlantic, it's certainly quite different in the East Pacific. We're up to the end storm now. That's about the 14th named storm we've had. We've had two very powerful Category 5 hurricanes there, Guillermo and Linda. And of course, a lot of folks, and we agree, attribute that to the El Nino, where we have above normal water temperatures throughout some pretty wide expanses of the Pacific Ocean. This has been about stationary now for about 18 hours. It hasn't moved at all, but there are indications that it's going to begin a slow movement now to the northwest, and we expect that to continue for several days. And we don't think they'll even be up as far quite as the tip of Baja California, even in 3 days at the rate it's going. Now, the tropical storm warnings along the coast have been discontinued. We still have a hurricane watch from Cabo Corrientes down to Lázaro Cárdenas. That's a hurricane watch. Now, we do have a tropical storm there, but certainly it is forecast to be a hurricane. Looking at this picture, we can see a nice counterclockwise rotation. We can zoom in on it and show you even better what it looks like now. And we're beginning to see concentrations of deep clouds around the center, and all that tells us that it is increasing. The top winds are now 65 miles an hour, but we think it'll be a hurricane, if not tonight, sometime tomorrow. Linda, once a powerful Category 5 hurricane, is no more. The National Hurricane Center is not writing any advisories on it anymore, but you can still see moisture streaming from where it was up over the, this is high and mid-level moisture, not bringing a lot of rain, but some small amounts of rain. We're a little bit concerned about this typhoon out here. The winds are only 90 miles an hour. It is moving toward the northwest. Now, the official forecast calls for this to recurve and just miss Japan, but we do have some other computer models that suggest that it will come very close to Japan. So we're not ready to sound the all clear yet. So the next 2 or 3 days, if it doesn't get to Japan, it'll be very close. That's the tropics. Now back to Mike.
Many residents of the Great
Lakes. Back down through Syracuse and extending now west of Elmira, second band. So Elmira, Ithaca, expect a little bit more rain.
We're going to jack up